For many decades now, archaeologists have been drawn to a special place in the heart of the jungle in northern Guatemala. This is where the ruins of Tikal lie, an age-old city built by the Maya. It's been clear for a long time that Tikal is a wondrous place, but recent findings have added far more color to our understanding of its past. The thing is, though, that discovery has totally blindsided experts. New laser scans of an ancient Mayan city revealed a startling buried truth. The Taikal Ruins are home to thousands of structures, some of which can be dated back to around 400 BC. All in all, the constructions found here demonstrate just how important the place once was. Tikal, also known as Yaxmutal, was once a capital within one of the more dominant kingdoms of the Maya civilization. The scale and age of the Taikal ruins have obviously caught the attention of archaeologists who have been working there since the 1950s. Luckily for them, many of the structures that were raised there were built using limestone. This has proved extremely durable, meaning there's still plenty of detail for experts to pore over today. Some important buildings have survived at Tikal, including the city's primary square and its ruler's palace. But beyond that, there are also pathways and canals, which indicate how the city functioned on a day-to-day basis. There are even the remains of some sports grounds, once used for amalgam played throughout the wider region. There's still plenty more to learn about Tikal, though, and archaeologists are doing their best to uncover its secrets. And with the help of special laser technology, they've been making some real progress of late. It's becoming clear that what's now near impenetrable jungle has previously played host to some extremely complex societies in its time, and we're only now getting to grips with that truth. The technology that's proven so useful for archaeologists working in the jungle is called LiDAR, a contraction of the phrase light detection and ranging. In essence, this innovation allows them to generate detailed images of the area beneath all that plant growth. In doing so, they can see clearly just how extensive Tikal had once been. The LiDAR project has been described as a major breakthrough for archaeologists interested in learning more about the Maya civilization. It has revealed a wealth of interesting structures and designs throughout Tikal, including something like 60,000 residences and even some raised roads. In short, the initiative has lent experts a better glimpse than ever before of the complex society that once thrived in this modern jungle. Thomas Garrison is one of many archaeologists involved in the project. In 2018, Garrison spoke to the magazine National Geographic about the work. Alluding to the site's significance, he commented, "The LiDAR images make it clear that this entire region was a settlement system whose scale and population density had been grossly underestimated. Thanks to LiDAR, the team has managed to map some 800 square miles of land. That's a vast expanse, and the features the laser mapping has revealed there are quite staggering." In short, it's been suggested that the society which once thrived at Tikal was roughly as sophisticated as those of ancient Greece and China. The raised roads revealed by LiDAR were particularly indicative of the society's advanced nature, as they connected centers of urban activity with quarries. The mapping also showed a complicated irrigation system in place, which would have helped to sustain agricultural activity. So, even though the ancient Maya didn't utilize certain inventions we might think of as essential, such as the wheel, they still managed to build an extremely intricate society in their day. Marcelo Canuto is another archaeologist involved in this project who's spoken to National Geographic about it. He said, "We've had this Western conceit that complex civilizations can't flourish in the tropics, that the tropics are where civilizations go to die. But with the new LiDAR-based evidence from Central America, we now have to consider that complex societies may have formed in the tropics and made their way outward from there." Many archaeologists are in agreement with the notion that LiDAR has totally changed their field of study. Francisco Estrada Belli from Tulane University, for instance, observed, "LiDAR is revolutionizing archaeology the way the Hubble Space Telescope revolutionized astronomy. We'll need 100 years to go through all the data and really understand what we're seeing." Dr. Estrada Belli may well be right about having to wait a century before all the data is understood, but some amazing discoveries have already been made. The project has shown us a lot about the society of the Maya and its people. For example, we're only now beginning to appreciate just how densely populated its lands were. Dr. Estrada Belli explained to National Geographic, most people had been comfortable with population estimates of around 5 million. With this new data, it's no longer unreasonable to think that there were 10 to 15 million people there, including many living in low-lying, swampy areas that many of us had thought uninhabitable. The cities of the Maya civilization largely incorporated waterways into their urban designs. They built causeways to allow traffic to pass over wetlands, even during periods of heavy rain. Through the design and construction of features including canals, reservoirs, and dikes, they controlled the flow of water around and through their settlements. There are myriad fascinating features in Tikal that have been highlighted by Leiter, but Thomas Garrison, for one, is most interested in one thing in particular. Notably, there seems to have been great effort put into building defensive structures throughout the city. The archaeologist reflected, warfare wasn't only happening toward the end of the civilization. It was large-scale and systematic, and it endured over many years. The Leiter project has enabled modern experts to gain a wider snapshot of this society in a way that would have been impossible otherwise. The traditional digging methods of research are still effective for certain things, of course. But this technology can help lay bare otherwise hidden features, as archaeologist Catherine Rees-Taylor mused to National Geographic. Professor Rees-Taylor, who wasn't directly involved in the project, said, "The ambition and the impact of this project is just incredible." After decades of combing through the forests, no archaeologists had stumbled across these sites. More importantly, we never had the big picture that this dataset gives us. It really pulls back the veil and helps us see the civilization as the ancient Maya saw it. The power of Leiter within the context of this project was highlighted yet again in September 2021 with the publication of a new study. Printed in the journal Antiquity, this research laid out another magnificent discovery at Tikal. This time, it was an entire neighborhood that had been found, but it was far more special than anyone could have predicted. Finding a previously unknown neighborhood in an archaeological site as important as Tikal is special regardless, but the precise nature of this zone makes it even more notable. Basically, the archaeologists realized that this place looked really like another city of Mesoamerica called Teotihuacan. The weird thing is, though, is that ancient capital happens to be situated many hundreds of miles away, just outside modern-day Mexico City. At its height, roughly speaking, a 500-year period beginning 2,000 years ago, Teotihuacan was the single most significant city in all Mesoamerica. More than 100,000 people lived there at one stage, with the city itself exerting a great deal of power and control over the wider region. It seems that influence even extended to the smaller city of Tikal, some 750 miles distant. Teotihuacan sits upon roughly 8 square miles of land, which, in turn, is laid out in a series of grids. The city as a whole contains a range of different structures, from the largely ceremonial to the more practical. That includes audacious pyramids and religious sites, as well as simpler residential complexes. Among the larger and more notable buildings in Teotihuacan are a couple of pyramids, a citadel, and some temples. Joining all these grand structures together is the Avenue of the Dead, a lengthy stretch of road. At one end of this lane is the Pyramid of the Moon, while the other end points towards a now inactive volcano called Cerro Gordo. Despite so many ruins still standing in Teotihuacan, not much is actually known about its history. Historians don't even know which culture first raised it. Theories exist, of course, with one claiming that the city formed after people from elsewhere in the region were forced to leave their homes and set up somewhere new in the wake of a volcanic eruption. But no consensus on this question exists, and there are several other lines of thinking out there. Historians don't know about the beginnings of Teotihuacan, and the same can be said for its end. We still have no real idea why the city collapsed, but it seems the process began in about 600 AD again. Explanations vary, with some experts suggesting that the place was invaded. Others say that there was an internal rebellion in the city that spelled its demise. In any case, it was empty by roughly 750 AD. Teotihuacan was an influential place, but the fact that a model version of it was found so far away in Tikal is really surprising. And the find may well have gone undiscovered were it not for this Leiter project. Without digital imagery pointing towards this precise spot in the site, archaeologists might never have investigated it. As things turned out, though, Leiter showed the archaeologists where to dig. So, a team headed up by Edwin Ramirez got to work on the spot, which covered around 62 acres. The zone appeared to be a single neighborhood, consisting of a pyramid and a number of other smaller structures. Stephen Houston is the lead archaeologist credited on the paper in Antiquity documenting the team's work. In an email exchange with the website Gizmodo, Dr. Houston sang the praises of Leiter and admitted how the discoveries it revealed had caught the team off guard. As he phrased it, the findings surprised us mightily. Even before Leiter had been utilized at Tikal, though, archaeologists had already established a connection between the mighty Teotihuacan and its smaller counterpart. That link had been clear, for example, from artifacts that had been found in Tikal. They suggested that a trading relationship had once existed between the two centers. Until recently, though, archaeologists had downplayed the extent to which Teotihuacan had links to the Maya civilization as a whole. But this discovery at Tikal has totally turned everything on its head. It seems the Maya cities and Teotihuacan were bound in a far tighter way than anyone ever thought. For anyone who knows what they're looking at, it's pretty much undeniable that the newly discovered neighborhood at Tikal was directly modeled on Teotihuacan. It even has its own citadel, though it's quite a bit smaller than Teotihuacan's famous one. Other features shared between the two spots include a plaza and a reservoir. As Dr. Houston explained to Gizmodo, it wasn't just the structural features themselves that were significant. The specific ways in which they were arranged was also very telling. He said, the layout is highly similar. An enclosure defined by buildings on all four sides and a larger building, a pyramid, on the eastern side. To either side of that pyramid are flanking platforms, all of which resemble closely if at reduced scale the Great Citadel at Teotihuacan. Dr. Houston went on, the front of the pyramid at Tikal has been found to have many incense burners that may have come from Teotihuacan. On top of everything else, certain aspects of the newly discovered area actually go against what experts have previously come to expect of Maya cities, both in general and specifically in at Tikal. As the academic explained, the orientation of the precinct is very similar to that of Teotihuacan in ways that contrast with Maya buildings nearby. The archaeologists also discovered a ceremonial resting place where people appear to have been burned. A slew of artifacts that seem to be associated with funeral practices were also found here. Again, experts say that these finds seem more in keeping with the traditions of Teotihuacan rather than those usually associated with the Maya. So, there were clearly some strong connections binding Tikal to the powerhouse of Teotihuacan. But what was the basis for these links? And why were they only really evident in a single neighborhood of Tikal and not the whole place? Well, the team has offered its thoughts on those questions. Teotihuacan was a mightily powerful city in its day, and it wasn't at all afraid to exert that power. So, in the year 378 AD, it managed to seize Tikal for itself. It's around this same time, the archaeologists believe, that we see this mirror image neighborhood form. But what does that mean, exactly? Well, it suggests that Teotihuacan was flexing its imperial muscles. By installing a complex based on their own heartland, the conquerors from Teotihuacan were really leaving their mark on Tikal. The place may even have acted as a sort of embassy, or perhaps it housed diplomats or soldiers from the homeland. The implications of all this are pretty significant, at least as far as archaeologists are concerned. These finds suggest the cities of Maya were influenced by outsiders to a much greater extent than anyone had ever realized. More research will be needed, of course, but the story of this civilization could soon become far richer. When we step back from the specific cities and cultures at play in this case, this discovery makes a far broader point. It demonstrates the sheer complexity of cities and the ways in which they develop and expand. This process doesn't occur in a vacuum, with outsiders often leaving their mark on a place, too. There's still much left to assess at Tikal, and more discoveries surely await. The archaeologists are, for instance, interested in analyzing the human remains that litter the site. Such research will doubtless tell us still more about the people who once inhabited this incredible place. Meanwhile, others in the archaeological community have wasted no time in putting lighter to use elsewhere in Mesoamerica, and their findings have been nothing short of groundbreaking. Close to the Brazilian section of the Amazon, settlements of ancient indigenous tribes have become lost in the changing landscape. But a 2020 study showed how modern technology has been put to work to uncover what the human eye can't see. An archaeological team, confident that they could find what so many others had missed, took to the skies over the rainforest with lighter. The question they were out to answer was a simple one. Could this technology pick up on traces of extinct communities in the Amazon? For centuries, much of what occurred upon the land before colonization took over has been unknown. From the pieces of history that survived, historians agreed on a few common facts. Still, so much more information was needed. Friar Gaspar de Carvajal, a Dominican missionary, chronicled what he found upon exploring the New World. He wrote about a developed network of roads he had seen. Only more recently have his writings been deemed reliable, especially based on some of his claims. Though dedicated to locating and converting indigenous tribes, Carvajal nearly brought about their extinction. He didn't realize it, but Carvajal transported diseases from the old world that the tribes had never dealt with before, killing many. Still, he wasn't the last outsider to visit. By the 1700s, another explorer made his own declaration of what he found within the Amazonian land. Colonel Antonio Pires de Campos stated he witnessed large populations within the area. Of course, other outsiders who'd traveled through had no such experience. During the years between then and now, historians couldn't find any evidence for this hidden jungle civilization. Try as they might, the rainforest was simply too dense to survey. With no tangible proof other than the explorers' writings, many experts thought little of these theories. Enter LiDAR. The laser technology became a game changer in overturning assumptions and seeing the unseen. When its pulsed lasers are aimed at a targeted area, they return to a sensor. In doing so, they bring back accurate measurements of the land and a 3D map. Not only has the method become a reliable one, but a safer one. Experts don't have to navigate the tough terrain of overgrowth and wild animals. More importantly, the destruction and disturbance of the land is no longer needed to read into its past. The resulting LiDAR images revealed that Carvajal and Pires de Campos had not lied about their findings. Nor had they embellished what they had seen. The two had been correct all along. There was definitive proof of these Amazonian settlements, and their layout was astounding. A total of 35 villages had been scanned. They dated back between the 14th century and the 18th century. While the range was broad, it was the settlement's design that truly was awe-inspiring. These were far more advanced than groupings of huts in the rainforest. Mound villages, shaped like circles and rectangles, were discovered, all being about 3 miles apart. As their names suggested, the villages took the form of pilings that surrounded a center plaza. They formed some interesting patterns too. Among the roads that crossed through the villages were 2 primary routes. They stretched out, both 20 feet wide, and formed into high banks. It was these larger roads that reached other settlements. In each and every area pictured, the intricate network of roads sprouted out like a clock hand. Or maybe they were something else altogether. The archaeological team published their findings in Journal of Computer Applications in Archaeology. The team stated that the roads in the images were like the rays of the sun, which gives them the common name of sóis, the Portuguese word for suns. In fact, all of the structures seemed to mirror some celestial body. Could the old Amazonian tribes have looked far up to the skies for inspiration on their settlements? It's simply a theory currently, but one that holds up well due to the layout. These peoples could have designed their homes to resemble the constellations due to their way of life. The maps revealed a history of Amazonian tribes that had a strong soil engineering culture. What is most essential for crops to thrive? The power of the sun that looms overhead. It was literally and figuratively the center of their world. Many civilizations throughout South America had a special devotion to the sun and the cosmos. Over along the western edge of South America, the Incan Empire worshipped the sun as a deity. The sun was necessary for warmth and life that it provided. When a total solar eclipse plunged the world into darkness, the Incas performed rituals of fasting and sacrifices to better please their deity and return the sun to them. With the lighter equipment at their ready, it's very possible the archaeologists' theory will become fact and uncover further settlements of the past. These constellation-based Amazonian villages could unlock secrets for former civilizations throughout Mesoamerica. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.